Hello, young people. Before I start this reading, I wanted to show you a cool feature that our text has here. So this text has hyperlinks, which means anytime you see a link like this, you can click on it and it will take you to an index at the bottom of the text where it contains more information. When you want to return to the text, you click on the book number 5, which is what we're reading, the line number for your section, and it brings you right back to where you were. So if I wanted to learn more about dawn, I would click here, and it would take me to the section for dawn in the index. When I wanted to return to the text, I know I'm in section lines 1 through 42. I click here, and it brings me back. Without any further ado, let's get to our reading. This is Book 5 of the Odyssey by Homer, translated by A.S. Klein. Lines 1 through 42. Zeus sends Hermes to Calypso. Now dawn rose from her bed beside renowned Tithonius, bringing light to the deathless ones and to mortal men. The gods were seated in council, Zeus, the thunderer, greatest of all among them. Athene was speaking of Odysseus's many sufferings, recalling them to their minds, unhappy that he was still a prisoner in Calypso's isle. Father Zeus, and all you blessed ever-living gods, may sceptered kings never be kind or gentle or think of justice from this time on. Let them be arbitrary and cruel, since not one of the race that divine Odysseus ruled remembers him, though he was tender as a father. He suffers misery in the island home of the nymph Calypso, who keeps him captive there. He cannot head for home without oared ship or crew to carry him over the sea's wide back, and men plot to murder his beloved son, who is journeying home from sacred Pylos and noble Sparta, where he went seeking news of his father. Cloud-gathering Zeus replied, "My child, what words escape your lips? Was this not of your own devising, that Odysseus might return and take vengeance on them all? As for Telemachus, direct him wisely, since you have the power, so that he may reach home safely while the suitors return, their purpose thwarted." Then he instructed Hermes, his faithful son, "Since you are ever our messenger, Hermes, tell the nymph of the lovely tresses of our resolve, that enduring Odysseus shall return without help of gods or mortal men. But with great suffering he shall come on a close-knit raft on the 20th day to Scheria's rich soil, the land of the Phaeacians, kin to the gods. They will honor him from the heart, as if he were divine, and send him on board ship to his native land, gifting him piles of gold and bronze and garments, more than he could ever have won from Troy if he had reached home safely with his fair share of the spoils. This is the way he is fated to see his people again, his vaulted palace and native isle." Lines 43 to 91. Hermes visits Calypso. He spoke, and the messenger god, the slayer of Argus, promptly obeyed. He quickly fastened to his feet the lovely imperishable golden sandals that carry him swift as the flowing wind over the ocean waves and the boundless earth. He took up the wand as well, with which he lulls men to sleep or wakes them from slumber, and the mighty slayer of Argus flew off with it in his hand. He stepped out of the ether onto the Pierian coast, then swooped over the sea, skimming the waves like a cormorant that drenches its dense plumage with brine as it searches for fish in the fearsome gulfs of the restless ocean. So Hermes traveled over the endless breakers until he reached the distant isle. Then, leaving the violet sea, he crossed the land and came to the vast cave where the nymph of the lovely tresses lived, and found her at home. A great fire blazed on the hearth, and the scent of burning cedar logs and juniper spread far across the isle. Sweet-voiced Calypso was singing within, moving to and fro at her loom, weaving with a golden shuttle. Of Odysseus there was no sign, since he sat wretched as ever on the shore, troubling his heart with tears and sighs and grief. There he could gaze out over the rolling waves with streaming eyes. When the lovely goddess Calypso had seated Hermes on the bright, gleaming chair, she questioned him. "Why are you here, Hermes of the golden wand, an honored and welcome guest? You rarely visit me. Speak whatever is in your mind. My heart says do it if do it I can, and if it can be done. But follow me now, so I can offer you refreshment." Lines 92 through 147. Hermes explains his mission. With this, the goddess set ambrosia on a table in front of him and mixed a bowl of red nectar. So the messenger god, the slayer of Argus, ate and drank, and when he had dined to his heart's content, he replied to her question. "Goddess to god, you ask me why I am here, and since you ask, I will tell you clearly. Zeus it was who sent me, unwillingly. Who would choose to fly over the vast space of the briny sea, unspeakably vast? And no cities about, no mortals to sacrifice to the gods and make choice offerings. But no god can escape or deny the will of Zeus, the aegis bearer. He says that you have here a man, the most unfortunate of all those warriors who fought 9 years round Priam's city and sacked it in the 10th. Then left for home. Setting out, having offended Athene, she raised a violent storm and towering seas. All the rest of his noble friends were drowned, but the wind and the waves that carried him brought him here. Zeus commands you to send him swiftly on his way. It is not his fate to die here far from his friends. He is destined to see those friends again and reach his vaulted house and his native isle." At this, the lovely goddess Calypso shuddered and spoke to him winged words. "You are cruel, you gods, and quickest to envy, since you are jealous if any goddess openly mates with a man, taking a mortal to her bed. Jealous, you gods, who live untroubled of rosy-fingered Dawn and her Orion, till virgin Artemis of the golden throne attacked him with painless arrows and Ortygia and slew him. Jealous of Demeter and the lovely tresses, gave way to passion and lay with Iason in the thrice-plowed field. Zeus soon heard of it and struck him dead with his bright bolt of lightning. And jealous now of me, you gods, because I befriended a man, one I saved as he straddled to the keel alone, when Zeus had blasted and shattered his swift ship with a bright lightning bolt out on the wine-dark sea. There all his noble friends were lost, but the wind and the waves carried him here. I welcomed him generously and fed him and promised to make him immortal and unaging. But since no god can escape or deny the will of Zeus, the aegis bearer, let him go, if Zeus so orders or commands it. Let him sail the restless sea. But I will not convey him, having no oared ship and no crew to send him off over the wide seas back. Yet I cheerfully advise him, and openly, so he may get back safe to his native land." "Then send him off now as you suggest," said the messenger god, the slayer of Argus, and be weary of Zeus's anger, lest he is provoked and visits that anger on you someday. Lines 148 to 191. Calypso promises to free Odysseus. With this, the mighty slayer of Argus departed, and the lovely nymph, mindful of Zeus's command, looked for valiant Odysseus. She found him sitting on the shore, his eyes as ever wet with tears, life's sweetness ebbing from him in longing for his home, since the nymph no longer pleased him. He was forced to sleep with her in the hollow cave at night, and she wished though he did not. But by day he sat among rocks and sand, tormenting himself with tears, groans, and anguish, gazing with wet eyes at the restless sea. The lovely goddess spoke as she approached him. Be sad no longer, unhappy man. Don't waste your life in pining. I am ready and willing to send you on your way. Fell tall trees with the axe, make a substantial raft, and fasten planks across the decking, so it can carry you over the misty sea. And I will stock it with bread and water and red wine to your heart's content, to stave off hunger and thirst, and I'll give you clothing too. And I'll raise a following wind, so you reach home safely, if that is the will of the gods who rule the wide heavens, since they have more power than I to fulfill their purpose. At this noble enduring, Odysseus shuddered, and he spoke to her winged words. Goddess, you must mean something other, suggesting I cross the dangerous, daunting sea's vast gulf on a raft, where not even the fine, swift sailing ships go, enjoying the winds of Zeus. I will not trust myself to a raft when you do not wish it, unless you, goddess, give me your solemn word that you are not planning something new to harm me. Calypso, the lovely goddess, smiled at his words, and stroking his arm replied, What a rascal you are, with a devious mind, to think of speaking so to me. So let earth be my witness now, and the underground waters of Styx, this the blessed god's greatest, most dreadful oath, that I will not plan anything new to harm you. Rather, my thoughts and advice are like those I would have for myself if I needed them. My intentions are honest ones, and my heart is not made of iron. It too can feel pity. Lines 192 through 261. Odysseus builds his raft. With this, the lovely goddess swiftly walked away, and he followed in her footsteps. Man and goddess reached the hollow cave, and he sat down on the chair that Hermes had used. Then the nymph set all types of food and drink before him, those that mortals consume. But before her the maids set ambrosia and nectar, as she sat facing divine Odysseus. So they reached for the good things prepared for them. And when they had finished eating and drinking, Calypso, that lovely goddess, spoke first. Son of Laertes, scion of Zeus, Odysseus of many resources, must you leave like this so soon? Still, let fortune go with you. Though if your heart knew the depths of anguish you are fated to suffer before you reach home, you would stay and make your home with me and be immortal, no matter how much you long to see that wife you yearn for day after day. I am surely no less than her, I contend, in height or form, since no woman can reasonably compete with the gods in form or face. Then resourceful Odysseus replied to her, Great goddess, do not be angry at what I say. I know myself that wise Penelope is less than you, it's true, in looks and stature, being immortal, while you are immortal and ever young. Even so I yearn day after day, longing to reach home, and see the hour of my return. And if some god should strike me out on that wine-dark sea, I will endure it, owning a heart within inured to suffering. For I have suffered much, and labored much, in war and on the seas. Add this then to the sum. As he spoke, the sun dipped, and darkness fell, and the two of them found the deepest recess of the hollow cave, and delighted together in their lovemaking. As soon as rosy-fingered dawn appeared, Odysseus dressed in tunic and cloak, and the nymph clothed herself in a long white robe, lovely and closely woven, and fastened a fine gold belt around her waist, and covered her head with a veil. Then she began to prepare valiant Odysseus' departure. Lines 262 to 312. Poseidon raises a storm. After 4 days, Odysseus had crafted his raft, and on the 5th, lovely Calypso bathed him and dressed him in scented clothes, and watched him set out. The goddess had placed a skin filled with dark wine on board, and a larger one of water, and a bag of provisions, full of many good things to content his heart, and she sent a fine breeze, warm and gentle. Odysseus spread his sail to the wind with joy, and steered the raft cleverly with the oar as he sat there. At night he never closed his eyes in sleep, but watched Pleiades, late-setting boots, and the great bear that men call the Wain, that circles in place opposite Orion and never bathes the sea. Calypso, the lovely goddess, had told him to keep that constellation to larboard as he crossed the waters. 17 days he sailed the seas, and on the 18th, the shadowy peaks of the Phaeacian country loomed up ahead like a shield on the misty sea.